Welcome to the Forward Ever podcast, where we highlight African immigrant leaders in New York and make visible the interest of Africans in New York's immigrant community. My name is Yata Kyuzolu, and you're hearing the sounds of Yakuba Sissoko. In this episode, we hear from Elhadji Djibril, the head of communications at the Murid Islamic Community in America, also known as MICA. Elhadji recounts his migration from Senegal to the States and details his contribution to local organizations in Little West Africa of Harlem. Thank you for tuning in. I'll start this out by telling you a little bit about ACT, which is African Communities Together. It's an organization that highlights immigrants as leaders and changemakers and makes visible their struggles of immigrating to the United States. Barnard is collaborating with ACT to create a podcast that amplifies their voices when they are being silenced. Starting with me, my name is Mame Seck. There's a huge West African presence in New York City, and my parents are Senegalese immigrants. So can you introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Mame Jara, for having me on your podcast. My name is Elhadji Djibril Diagne, and I'm commonly referred to Djiby Diagne in the community. I live in the Bronx. So I'm ready to be part of your podcast and share my stories.
Thank you. Where were you born exactly? What was your family like growing up?
Yeah, I was born in Senegal, in Dakar, Senegal, and I grew up in Rufisque, which is in the suburb of Dakar. Mm-hmm. And I have three siblings, two elder siblings and one young sibling. So I have one half brother and two sisters, one elder and one young.
How was it like growing up?
Yeah, that was okay. So it was tough times sometimes, but we all struggle and to better our life and better ourselves. Family support here and there. I have a huge family. If you know a family in the Senegalese sense. Family is cousins, is uncles, it's grandparents, and remote cousins and all that. But I grew up with my mom. We were living in a polygamous family, but I did not grow up. I didn't grow up with my other siblings, my other half siblings. So I grew up with my mom, grandma, and aunts. At some period of our life we got separated and we stayed with my mom and my siblings, and that's it. So growing up I was all by myself, I can say, because by the time I got into school, my elder brother, he already left for high school, and he was going to high school in Dakar. My dad was not around. I was only with my mom. So, and with in the neighborhood. So mom had to go to work. She had to, make a living to support us and stuff, because no man in the house to tell me what to do or how to do it.
Did you lean more towards like your friends and for companionship?
You can say that because you grew up in the neighborhood. So as a kid, you stick with your friends in the neighborhood. Even though you got a lot of friendship in school, I went to Quranic school and I went to school at the same time. So during holidays and breaks, you got time to maybe. I was often taken to my aunt who lives in Louga, which is maybe 3-4 hours away from Dakar. Mm-hmm. The elder sister of my mom, who loves me so much. So I was like a baby. So every holidays and even a break of a week, I will go to visit her. And she nurtured me like her son. And otherwise, when I'm back home, I go to school. If I don't go to school, I go to Quranic school. So during Quranic school breaks, we have time to play around, to fool around, to do a lot of crazy stuff. And I was kind of very stubborn as a kid. I was doing a lot of crazy stuff. And I had a very tough mom, like a tiger mom, and I grew in the hood. Yeah, my neighborhood was I have very rough friends and stuff who drop out, school dropouts and all that in the neighborhood. And you hang out with them because you're a kid. You don't think of a lot of things. But I had a lot of friends who don't go to school. So I will be hanging out with them, but I wasn't picking their habits, their ill habits, because I was always thinking of my mom, of what would become of me if she wasn't around. She is the only support I have. I had to really listen to her and follow her advice. Even though I will be wilding out and stuff, I was always thinking of, you know, me, my success in school, my success in life. I don't want to end up like my friends here, so that you can, you know, do something out of your life. So, and for us, as in Senegal, for us, how you grew up, you have to go to school, stay in school. You have to be very smart. The smartest are those who succeed in school, you know, and have degrees and stuff. That's what it was growing up in, you know, as a kid.
You mentioned going to Quran school. How big of a factor did religion play in your life growing up?
Not that much, because, you know, we don't learn religion. When you're a kid, you don't learn. It's when you grow up and you have that critical thinking and you have that, you know, reasoning, sound reasoning and stuff. That's when you start really learning and knowing about the religion. But as a kid, you just follow, you know, you just follow. You follow orders, you follow what your parents are doing, you follow what's in the community, you do what people are doing around you. You don't even think. As Muslim kid, living in Muslim community, even though we had like Catholic friends, you know, we had friends who are Catholics, and we hang out with them. Senegal, it's a majority Muslim country, but we live with other faith, like next door. All that gives you that sense of, you know, community, religious community, even though you don't have the same faith. My mom, she has siblings, she has brothers who are very successful, and she always refers me like, look up to them. Look at your uncle. They did not have what you had. They were poor. It was during colonial period.
Talked about your uncle and having all of these people to look up to and how they didn't really have much growing up. Given that, did you have like any aspirations to travel far when you were a kid, when you were a child?
Of course, I had aspirations growing up because, you know, as a success, as something, someone who see himself or herself as successful. One of my uncle, he studied in France, and, you know, my mom always recounts me his story, which was very appealing. He's the eldest uncle, but he has a success story, you know. He was very successful.
What inspired you to choose to immigrate to New York City?
Oh, I first live in, before coming here, I lived in Washington, D.C. I told you I have 2 cousins there. I lived in DC for 7 years before coming here. So, and my coming here is a long story because I never dreamed of or thought of coming to the US. You know, everything was like after you graduated high school, go to France, study, come back home, that's it. That's the model of success. But going to France didn't come easy as I expected it would be. So I had to follow my studies, go to college in Senegal. After college, I took a job as a contractor with the Department of Education of Senegal. For 3 years, I was teaching English and history. And then in 1999, I packed and come over here because when I was in my bachelor year, I didn't have that financial support. Certain of documentation that I was looking for, a family member hooked me up. But by then, I was even, you know, very mitigated about leaving because I wasn't feeling anymore that necessity to depend on people to help me out. I've been working hard to just be independent of family help. You help your your nephew, you help your sister, your brother, if you can. That's how it is. That's the rule. It's like a tacit rule. It's not written anywhere, but that's the solidarity system that you grow up with. After I graduated high school, so I was shipped like 5 hours away from home, and that's where when I started developing that spirit of independence. And I pick a lot of those qualities from my mom. You know, like I told you, we didn't grow up with dad, so she was the only one around taking care of us the best she could. Sometimes you were not happy, but you have to suck it up and move. People were even pushing you to depend on your successful next of kin to be successful. I didn't want that. It's during those years of working, 3 years of hustling, I was dispatched like in a brand new school. They have never had a middle school, high school there. So they're building up from the ground up. And I was one of the founders of that school, I can say, because we built it from the ground up. And now it has become a big school. And so that's how I was able to save and I get a visa. That's how I ended up here.
So you tried to like do everything on your own and, you know, build your own, I would say, empire. Even though you had that mentality for yourself, how have you accessed your community or helped your community since moving to NYC?
A lot. A lot. I've been everywhere, you know. So by trade, I'm a trained linguist. I'm a linguist. I have a master's in Africana Studies and Literature. When I arrived here, my base is the Murid community because I'm a Murid.
When you came to New York City, you experienced all these like new opportunities and stuff. How was the language barrier like moving to New York City?
Even though I studied English, because my course of studies was African literature and civilization in English. In Senegal, we don't speak English unless you're in a classroom setting. And we learn British English. We don't learn American English. When I came here, I already have a language, right? But you have to learn, you know, the English, like the street English.
What was the biggest difference like that you noticed between, you know, Senegalese culture and American culture?
I experienced my most culture shock in Washington, D.C. When I arrived here, I was already vaccinated. I had my shot already, you know. Yeah, that's what we say, you know, I was already vaccinated. I know all the in and outs and everything, but it's two different worlds. You grow up, you were born and raised in a culture where, you know everything and everybody going around you, you know, and you're very, you know, people are down to earth and respectful to each other. They respect, you know, we respect generations, we respect our elders, we respect our siblings, our neighbors, you know, we respect authority, all that. So when you came here, you know, it's a very different. And as I was moving and doing more research and more reading about, you know, a lot of myth, even that you a lot of things that you learn or you read in my French setting. Mm-hmm. When I came here, I do more reading. I read more authors, historians, sociologists, political scientists, and then I had a different narrative now about American history, culture than previously, what I was reading back then. As you move from two different worlds, your whole view is evolving and changing, and your thinking also. So that's how I was able to accumulate a lot of, from my readings. I read a lot of history. I read Black authors in literature, history. Being here has allowed me even to become another man that I would not have become if I was in Senegal. Meaning that I did not need anybody to talk to or to ask about taking my decisions.
Very American value.
You see what I'm saying? I did not learn that here. I told you I already developed my spirit of independence before coming here. And then that's how I'm closer to how American people think and stuff. When I came here, I discovered that American people also, that's how they think. They think like me. I'm like, cool, I can evolve here. I can live here. I can be American, but rooted to my community. So that's to come back to helping my community. So with all that luggage I had developed, I'm a good writer. I'm a good speaker. I'm a good thinker. I'm a translator and interpreter. I'm a co-host of the Radio Murid in the communication of the Murid organization. You know, so we run the communication there, and I do most of the stuff. Beside being the editor-in-chief of the annual magazine, the annual festival or holidays going on in the community. It is very important for the community to see its members, especially its young members who graduate, who were born here, raised here, who've been to school, college graduates, come give back a little bit to their community.
Speaking of community, what inspired you to want to join that? Because I know you talk a lot about community, despite the fact that you have your own independent mindset, you really value community. And I think that's where you have stayed true to your Senegalese roots in some way. Mm-hmm. So what really inspired you to join MICA?
Yeah, it's I would say I did not join them. They come to me. You know, Daraji, that's where it all started. So when I arrived here, because I was following them when I was in DC, and that's they started that organization. It's an organization within, you know, the Murid community, independent from MICA. Those are the guys I knew, and I integrated that group when I came here. And that's where MICA saw me, because when I came there, I started organizing them. We can improve this area. They were building up a website. They built a website, but they had no content. When I knew that they had a website, I'm like, why you never told me you had a website and you haven't even launched it yet? They're like, no, because there's nothing in it. It's just a website. I'm like, let me see. And when I saw, I'm like, we can, like, in 2 weeks, we will launch this website. They're like, what? I'm like, of course. I know how to put the contents here. And it was in English. The first website in the world was called tubausa.com. And the first website to live stream events in the world. First Murid website. That's how MICA people saw me. So they built their own thing. That's what's behind that Daraji. People started mentioning my name out there. And that's how MICA people saw me. And that's how they can ask obliged to build a bridge between those guys over there in 116 and the house of Sering Tuba. But I kind of make them see what's more important about the community. It's to be, you know, to stay together, to get united, to work together.
What's one resource you think would benefit the growing immigrant community in New York? Because I know you said they launched a website, you were able to get that under running.
Now I can help MICA. Their website, if you go to tubausa.com, they were rebuilding, they were, you know, revamping their website, and they wanted me to be part of it. So all the content, and you see there all the rubrics, that's my signature.
What's one thing that you would like to impart to the growing immigrant community in New York?
Of course, we have organizations that are not very independent. Financially. They can hire people. to work for them. And if you want to move forward and serve really your community purposefully, serve the community, you need to have financial independence. So what do we need? Funding. And how do you get funding? Through, you ask for it. You apply for funding. Do they know how to do that? You tell me. That's where, again, I'm coming back to you guys you've been to college, you know how to write grants and stuff. Yeah, come write grants for your community. That's what I'm saying. So you guys are part of it. So you need to come and give back. We need to reset our objectives and reset our orientations. We have third generation, second generation, third generation of Senegalese Americans here. Where are we, and what have we left? What have we built for our children? Religious communities like MICA and the like are trying to build, because it's a tradition among Murids, and Muslims in general, to have a center to welcome people who are desperate or in need. It doesn't stop there, but it seems like that's where people want to leave it. That's where they want to stop, just that. But it has to be more, because so many young people are in the community and they cannot find their own space with the parochial mindset. Being parochial is just like not wanting to change anything ever in your life. Even though you are in a different environment, you see that you have children who are growing up with a different mindset than yours, but you don't want to budge. You don't want to move a bit. You don't want to even build that bridge to be able to listen to them, communicate with them, and help them, support them in their life, in their ideas. You don't see that. We don't have that type of space. That's why a lot of young people are doing their own thing in their own corner without even consulting elders.
Part of the reason why the Senegalese or West African community in general hasn't advanced as much as it could is because there's not much communication between younger and older generations.
And for kids who are brought from Senegal, who come here, the information is missing because of the lack of communication. And you talk about the limited English that parents have to face in the administration of Trump during those periods. And that's even when I started going to the Radio Murid as a co-host in order to break down the local news, the domestic news here, break it down in Wolof, because they really needed it, because people were scared of the new administration. So since then I am there. It's every Thursday. I have a 30-minute to break down the news, politics, immigration, and sometimes international news. And people always are ready to ask you questions, how news is going. Sometimes people don't have a reliable source. And I always do my homework before going out there or talking to people. So if you come to me with information, I want to make sure what's the source. And all that is missing. Part of that communication and building bridges within the community is not focused. We are not laser focused. We are dispersed. Everybody doing his or her own stuff with that semblance of being organized. You see, women are organized, young adults are organized. You have religious organizations all around. You have regional organizations all around. If you're Murid, within the Murid community, you have smaller organizations, which are called diaspora, as you know. All that brings division. More names you got, the more division. Because the more you will see people trying to identify themselves with that small circle they're in, and they don't want to listen to somebody else. They don't want to hear anything from anybody else. And that's part of the issues that we have to overcome, and who's building and leaving something behind for the next generations.
So I have one more question. Given all of those suggestions and things to help the Senegalese immigrant community in particular when it comes to being more unified and stuff, what would you want to tell them or advise them to help target this issue between the Senegalese community?
People need to get more information. Even we have a lot of events, but the way we organize our events even needs to be reviewed because we don't go out in the street. Like I suggested them last year, for instance, we did the MAGA, the annual celebration. We did it it's almost in the street. It was in 116th Street. We did it in the association at the Taekwondo Club, which has become now our event center and direct. And it was very exciting. From now on, we should think of doing the Magal in the daytime, but not in the nighttime, because we celebrate Magals at nighttime in a closed place, just us. Think of bringing a stage here, closing the street, like they do during festivals or fairs, and we should showcase our own culture, Murid culture, Senegalese culture, whatever you want to name it. But we have to, for instance, bring it out here, organize barbecue during the Maga, do it a different way. That's another way of communicating. You don't only communicate through radio and stuff, you communicate through body language, through action. Anything you can get people to get involved and interested, they will come. So people here, when they see barbecue in the street, when they see a stage, well, we can organize that. It's like having a band. That's our choir. We can put it out there on the stage and people will be interested and into seeing what's going on. Who are these people? That's where the change of paradigms needs to come from. Just change the way you do things. Try to do it better. And that's always what I want to get involved into change, some adaptation, because that's what we need. We need to always adapt. Our thinking, our way of doing things, we need to always adapt it, because what happened between now and 5 years will not be the same that what happened 5 years ago till today.
Do you have any last words before I end the podcast? Anything you'd like to say?
Keep talking to people. Try to talk to young adults and try to talk to women, young women.
Thank you so much for your insight on this rising, pressing topic of immigration and offering your perspective. Also, thank you to the audience that's going to be listening to this. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Forward Ever podcast, a collaboration between African Communities Together and Barnard College. To learn more about African Communities Together and the many ways you can support our mission, visit our website at africans.us or follow us on social media. Our social media handle on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is AfricansUS. Like, comment, and share. Forward ever, backwards never.